All right, a lot of people are going to say the same thing that we've been saying all year, that Lando Norris is a bottler. He's been bottling it since last year when halfway through the season, a little bit before Zander, whatever the Dutch Grand Prix track is, Zandvoort or something like that, he blew out Verstappen. And for more than half of the season, he had the fastest car and bottled it. Then at the beginning of 2025, he proclaimed, "This is my year." And even I, who am a Verstappen fan, was quaking. I'm not gonna lie, I was quaking. But nothing ever changes with Norris. He's a bottler. A lot of it is mental. Some of it is also, I think, he just doesn't have a feel for grip. But that's not why he lost. We know that he lost today. He was storming back. He probably could have passed Piastri a couple of laps before the incident if he had stayed patient. Tried to go past him in a gap which wasn't there. But I don't blame him. I mean, we can blame him, but it's nothing new with him. It was a big mistake. It's a racing. I won't call it a racing incident, but I don't want to be too hard on him. I'm going to share most of the blame should be on Stella, the team principal. He talks about papaya rules, and it's just principles. Yeah, the team principal, it has principles. He says one of their top principles is that drivers must not collide. That's just ridiculous. It's very ridiculous. This is a team that has engineered a very beautiful car that has tire deg, which almost seems magical, which has fantastic agility and diversity on low speed, high speed corners. It has balance everywhere, but it does not have any strategists. It doesn't have any minds that don't understand strategy or tactics. You have the top two drivers this year who undoubtedly should be able to finish first and second, and they're in a racing situation for fourth place. They're racing for fourth place. This is ridiculous. In that situation, there should be rules instated. It should be, even before the race, even before the season, it should be written down that in that type of situation, an order needs to be made. Or if it's not written down, it's just common sense. People will say that it was Norris's fault for hitting Piastri in the back. Fine. But that was a heated racing situation between those two that had been building up. And at some point, when people were watching it, even I was watching, I was like, I hope these guys crash and both of them wipe out. I was hoping that it would happen. And I could feel that there was a situation that was about to happen. The team should have nipped that in the bud. There should have been something in place to say either Lando back off or Piastri give it to Lando because he's faster in that situation, because it was very clear that their whole season could just be swallowed up in an instant. And it was almost swallowed up in an instant, because if Piastri's tire had been punctured, both of them would have been out and would have given up, what is it, something like 17, 18 points to Verstappen, and that would have been a catastrophe. So I'm not going to go deeper into whether they should have these rules written out or not, but it's very clear that in a situation like that, there need to be orders. Also, if they come first and second in qualifying and they're head-to-head, you can't afford to say have these guys race. There have to be tactics put into place now because there's too much to lose. So that's all I'll say about that situation. Let's talk about Russell. Russell and Antonelli did very well this weekend. Russell came out of nowhere to win the qualifying. And this goes back to the predictions that the guys on our team made, which was that this track in Austria has a lot of braking zones and has a ton of chicanes and things like hairpins, which fare very well for cars that have a lot of traction. And I believe that Mercedes has just as much traction as McLaren, a lot more than Red Bull. Now, who knows why McLaren didn't qualify first? There are a lot of reasons. It's not that track doesn't have long, broad, what they call corners of long radius, constant radius. It doesn't have those types of corners which wear out other tires and gives an advantage to McLaren, which is very good with tire deg. So tire deg wasn't a factor in this thing. I thought that it would be a factor a little bit because of some of the tight corners, but there's not enough tight corners on that track either. It's mostly the track is pretty straight and has a lot of chicanes and about I think two tight corners, maybe two or three tight corners. So that sort of equalized everything, and it made Red Bull and Mercedes and McLaren about even in pace. I still think McLaren had slightly more pace, but the point I'm making is that Red Bull car does very well with traction and accelerating after stopping and those types of corners. So Russell made full advantage of that to come first in qualifying and had that advantage in the racing, which he was never going to lose. And the fact that it was very difficult for I think it was very difficult for Norris for Piastri to pass Antonelli also speaks to the fact that Antonelli just had so much grip coming out of those slow, out of those tight corners when Piastri was chasing him. So kudos to Mercedes, and we also have to look at the fact that the weather was cool, and we know they do very well in cool weather. But I think the main thing is that car has a lot of traction. It doesn't have as much aerodynamic efficiency as Red Bull and McLaren, so on other tracks it's going to struggle. But on this track is prime for it, where the car is just as good. I wouldn't say better, but just as good as Red Bull and McLaren, and yeah, as Red Bull and McLaren. And I still think that McLaren might have had a slight advantage in pace on this track. Oh shit! See what the record kept it.